With vendors and trade being a prominent part in the Fallout franchise, exchanging caps and in return you get to select from weapons, ammo or meds. I thought to myself, what if you couldn't buy anything? Could you still beat the game? But yeah, of course you could, with ease. Now, how can I make this more difficult? And I know, I'll beat the game with only items that can't be sold by vendors. So, if it's possible for a vendor to sell it, I can't use it. This includes ammo, meds, armor and junk. So, I will be dependent on legendary melee weapons. Power armor chassis are purchasable, however. But I will be using power armor, but not abusing it. Fusion cores will be obtainable as long as they are less than 100% charged, as vendors with fusion cores sell them at 100%. With all that said, let's take on the challenge. Can you beat Fallout 4 without the vendor items? We start our journey off in front of the mirror with the only face a mother could love. Don't know how I managed to bag a wife and a child, but as soon as I was allowed to roam free, a salesman tried to sell me stuff, but I told him my pocket's sealed, it's part of the challenge.
Go away.
As much as I told him no, my wife insisted, and I'm sorry, but I'm not challenging Nora. It's a death sentence. But I invested points into strength for melee and endurance for the advantages I would get in the wasteland. Anyways, you know how the story goes. Bomb goes boom, we get turned into a snow cone, wife goes splat. We're free to leave. Destroying the rad roaches with these meat gauntlets that no weapon can compare to. I got the Pip-Boy and left the vault, and started heading straight towards Diamond City. Stopping at the Drumlin Diner, where I showed Trudy and Patrick a quick 1-2 uppercut. It'll teach them for promoting capitalism in the wasteland. From this I gained my first perk point, which I invested in the unique taste of flesh, as this will be a great way to heal without stim packs or water. Quickly checking into the Cambridge police station to say hello to Buzz Lightyear, and kept heading towards Diamond City. On my way there, I stopped to kill the raiders at the USS Riptide, because one of them was wearing a set of raider power armor, which may come in useful later. Right outside of Diamond City, there was a gang of super mutants that were attacking the security. So I waited for the mutants to kill one of the security so I could steal the armor from them. However, the super mutants weren't successful. So, as a reward, I give the security a dessert in the form of a knuckle sandwich. Quickly stealing the armor and running. And returning a couple of days later, they must have short-term memory because none of them have any recollection of me viciously beating their friend and disappearing into the alleys. After interacting with Piper and gaining access into Diamond City, I instantly took part in a little bit of tomfoolery and stole Kellogg's house keys almost instantly. After heading to the Valentine Detective Agency and discovering the location of where Nick is held, I headed to Park Street Station, but not without trying my luck against Swan. And not surprisingly, I got catapulted into the void. Anyways, after heading into Park Street Station and punching all the triggermen to death and running through to try and avoid as much conflict as possible, I eventually reached Dino, knocking him out and freeing Nick. But even with a couple of points into unarmed, my fists weren't doing enough damage to actually be a viable mean of defense. I need an actual melee weapon. After dealing with Skinny Malone, that's exactly what I did. I headed to Dunwich Borers, barely scraping through all the raiders and ghouls, and dying more times I'd like to admit. I finally reached the final room, where I swam to the bottom to get my hands on the first weapon, the Kremva's Tooth, and instantly putting it to work fending off the swarm of ghouls that I previously ran past, and yeah, it's pretty good. After being questioned by Nick, we made our way to Kellogg's Goon Cave to find clues of his location, and from this we were led to Fort Hagen. Cutting and charging through the synths, I realised I couldn't heal against synths, because, well, I can't eat metal. So, the best ending I could go for is the Institute. While in Fort Hagen, I picked up my first exception to this challenge, which was a military-grade circuit board, as it's used for the teleporter later in the game. Once in the face of the man that killed my wife and kidnapped my son, I shook his hand and thanked him, because I didn't want to be a husband, never mind father. No, but in all seriousness, I cut him in half faster than he could react. While leaving Fort Hagen, I was met with the Predwin, the Brotherhood Steel Operations blimp. And just look at this reaction, doesn't it just say it all? Oh my god! It's the Brotherhood of Steel! What the fuck? Inspired by this, I went back to Swan, and died once again, and again. Finally, in the inspirational words of Frank Harrigan,
Where is your power armor?
I took down Swan and got my hands on the Furious Power Fist. Making my way to Good Neighbor, I showed Finn who was the boss, and then used the memory den to access Kellogg's memories. And through this, I found that the only way to get into the chute was teleportation, and the only person that knew how to get in was Vigil, who was in the Glowing Sea. But I'm not built for the radiation in the Glowing Sea, so I need a set of power armor. But first, I went looking for a power core. So the Museum of Freedom I went to finally help Preston. No. I was just there for the half-health fusion core. After this, to Pyro I went to go get his Hellfire power armor. And with this new gear, I headed into the glowing sea to find Vigil. And once I met up with Vigil, he told me to hunt an Institute Corsa. And hey, quick message, takes me a long time to make these videos, I'm not asking for money or anything like that. But if you're enjoying what you're watching and you want to see more, then leave a like and subscribe to the video to show your support. Thank you. Once reaching green texture next, I realised I was on no HP, and not even close to a level up. So the smart thing to do would be go heal then come back, right? Yeah, no, because I clearly enjoy the pain. I made my way through green check on basically 1 HP in a dream. And after suffering for way too long, I finally reached the Corsa and destroyed him, and in celebration I also obliterated everyone else in the room. After green tech and getting the Corsa chip, I followed the Freedom Trail to meet the railroad, where I met Desdemona and Tinker Tom so I could get the Corsa chip decoded. Once it was decoded, I headed to Arcjet with Buzz Lightyear to join the Brotherhood. I know I said I was going to side with the Institute, but I joined the Brotherhood just to build the teleporter and make fun of Ingram.
Ingram?
So,
Ingram's got no legs. Ingram's got no legs.
not what I was expecting.
Elbozo. In Arcjet, we cleared the synths and testified the rocket, where I was served a nice Lightyear kebab.
Oh my god, are you alright?
After obtaining the deep range transmitter, I joined the Brotherhood and headed back to the Cambridge police station, and this is where I used my first ranged weapon of the run. Well, kind of. The Vertibird minigun. And I have to say, going from melee to ranged was great, even if it was only for a small amount of time. Once reaching the Predwin, Elder Maxon told me I need to complete a mission for him before he could trust me to build the teleporter. So, back on the Vertibird I went to clear out Fort Strong, beaming the Behemoth and splattering the Super Mutants. Secured the armory, and then went to report my success to Maxon. And finally, he let me build the teleporter into the Institute. Once in the Institute, I ran through eagerly excited to meet Sean, but quickly the excitement died down when I realised my son was a crusty old man. I ran through introducing myself to the Institute leads and convincing Dr. Lee that the Brotherhood 100% needed her, but clearly she's not the one to be turned by charm. Instead, she'll come back to the Brotherhood if I do a side quest for her, which I politely declined.
No.
After returning to Father to speak with him, he sent me down to track a rogue synth. But on my way there, I met one of the most horrific things on the planet, an Assaultron with more brain cells than the average young Sheldon viewer, who is that smart. They use the power of gravity to push the cover you're taken behind to kill you. After finally destroying this freak of nature, I made my way to the Corsa, who was in a never-ending battle with a Vertibird. So, I fast-travelled away to despawn the Vertibird, and this is another rule of the challenge. Doctors. As I don't actually receive any physical item from the doctors, I'm allowed to use them to cure radiation and health. But, as caps are pretty scarce, I'll allow it, and how they're not always available, they can only be found in certain places. Anyways, returning to the ship, I clapped some raider cheeks, and on my way up, I heard the sound that every Fallout player dreads. Diving into the water, out of fear and looking for cover, I found Aquaman, just swimming there while I did all the work splattering skulls. I made my way to the top, peacefully deactivating the synth and executing his goons. Returned to the Institute and speaking with Father, it was time for the most intense, heated combat ever experienced by the likes of man, the Battle of Bunker Hill. I quickly just ran past everything, killing a railroad heavy just for the armor. Although the defense is only a slight improvement, the energy resistance was a massive improvement, being a staggering 39 points more than the Diamond City security outfit. After destroying Brotherhood Knight, I obtained 2 fusion cores that were usable, as one was 70% and the other was 90%. Making my way through to the synths, even one tried to bribe me.
I've got money. It's yours if you let me go.
What do you think I am, some type of capital monopoly man? No. So I sent him back to the Institute, and all of his friends also. In the Institute, we were having a super serious meeting about Father dying, even though I only found out about him about half an hour ago. He transferred the ownership of the Institute to me. After rescuing my power armor from the Golden Sea, it was time for mass fusion. Once relating to the building and power armor and a very sharp knife, the Brotherhood stood no chance. One even flung themselves into a wall and exploded because they were that scared. After reaching the reactor room and getting what only I can describe as getting my balls deep fried in a vat of radiation, I took the beryllium agitator. On my way out, I was attacked by a behemoth of a sentry bot, and I slapped him around like he was a rad roach. Leaving mass fusion, I was sent to go convince a doctor that the Institute wasn't going to kill him and just wanted to have a chat. Outside of the house, I was killing all the gunners, and I made my way inside. And clearly I'm not very charming, because he wouldn't leave.
Please, try and relax.
No.
So, a synth teleported into his locked room to subdue him and bring him back to the Institute. But I don't think they're going to be able to bring him back all in one piece. Never mind alive, as I was feeling a tad peckish. After recording some pro-Institute propaganda on a microphone, I headed to Diamond City to broadcast it to the entire wasteland. And reuniting with Father to get the beryllium agitator powered in the Institute. He told me I had to kill the railroad, so that's exactly what I did. And finally, it was the time for the last mission of the game, where we had to take on the Brotherhood. Suited up with power armor and a thirst to kill, I went in fist flailing like a human blender, destroying all generators and anyone who got in the way of them. As the synths were hacking Liberty Prime, I defended them, and let's just enjoy the carnage. Hold up, quick water break. Alright, back to it. Finally, the Brotherhood is defeated. Return to the Institute, one final time to meet Father on his deathbed, quite literally. The ending cutscene played.
Because I know war. War never changes.
Yeah, he said the line!
He said the thing!
He said the thing! And yes, you can be Fallout 4 without vendor items.